Seniors, I want to share something with you quietly because this is not something most people ever hear during a routine doctor's visit. After the age of 50, the way your body responds to water begins to change in subtle but important ways. And what most people don't realize is that drinking plain water the same way you've always done may no longer support your circulation the way you expect. In fact, in some cases, it may leave you feeling just as tired, just as sluggish, and just as uncomfortable, even when you're doing everything right. I know that sounds difficult to accept. For years, we've all been told the same simple rule: drink more water and your body will function better. It's one of the most common health recommendations in the world. But what if the issue isn't how much water you drink, but how your body is able to use it? Because here's what starts to happen after 50. Your blood vessels don't respond as quickly as they once did. The internal signals that control circulation begin to slow down. Your body becomes less efficient at maintaining fluid balance, and your natural thirst mechanism becomes less reliable, meaning you can be slightly dehydrated without even noticing it. So you drink more water, expecting your energy to improve, but something still feels off. Your hands feel colder than they used to. Your legs feel heavier by the end of the day. You may notice a slight dizziness when you stand up too quickly, and that mental clarity you once had feels just a little harder to maintain. It's not dramatic, it's subtle, but it's there. My name is Dr. Kendra Harris. I've spent years working closely with adults over 50, focusing on circulation, cardiovascular health, and the kind of fatigue that doesn't always show up clearly on standard medical tests. And what I've learned over time is that many people are not lacking effort when it comes to their health. They're simply missing the right information. Because in many cases, the body isn't failing. It's responding exactly as it's designed to, but it's not receiving the signals it needs to function at its best. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 5 simple hydration-based strategies that can help support blood flow in a more effective and natural way. We'll go from the least impactful to the most powerful. And I want you to stay with me until the end because the number one method is something almost nobody does correctly. And yet it can begin making a difference faster than you might expect. But before we get into those 5 strategies, you need to understand what's actually happening inside your body after 50. Because once you see this clearly, everything else will finally start to make sense. Your blood is not just a simple liquid moving through your body. It's a highly dynamic system made up of red blood cells, plasma, minerals, proteins, and signaling molecules, all working together to deliver oxygen and nutrients where they are needed most. This entire system flows through a network of blood vessels that are constantly adjusting, expanding, and contracting based on your body's needs. And lining those vessels is something incredibly important, a thin layer of cells known as the endothelium. These cells are not passive. They are active regulators of your circulation, and one of their most critical roles is producing a molecule called nitric oxide. Nitric oxide acts as a signal. It tells your blood vessels when to relax and widen, allowing blood to flow more easily. When this system is working properly, circulation feels effortless. Your hands and feet stay warm. Your brain receives a steady supply of oxygen. Your energy feels stable throughout the day. But after the age of 50, this process begins to change. Nitric oxide production naturally declines. Your blood vessels don't open as easily as they once did. And at the same time, your blood can become slightly thicker, which means it requires more effort to move through smaller vessels, especially in areas like your hands, feet, and brain. On top of that, your body's ability to regulate fluid balance also shifts. The kidneys don't retain water as efficiently, and your sense of thirst becomes less reliable. Many people over 50 are living in a state of mild chronic dehydration without even realizing it. Now, you might think the solution is simple: just drink more water. And while that seems logical, it only addresses part of the issue. Because water alone does not directly support the signaling system that controls your blood vessels. It doesn't significantly boost nitric oxide production. And in some cases, when consumed in large amounts without balance, it can dilute the minerals your body depends on to regulate circulation properly. This is where many people get stuck. They increase their water intake expecting to feel better, but nothing changes. The water is there. The hydration is there, but the response inside the body is not following. It's like adding more fuel to a system that isn't igniting properly. And without the right signals, the benefits you expect simply don't show up. Let me give you a real example. A patient I'll call Robert came to see me a few years ago. He was 71, retired, and very consistent with his daily habits. He drank water regularly, stayed moderately active, and avoided anything that could be considered unhealthy. But despite all of that, he had a set of symptoms that didn't make sense to him. His hands were almost always cold, even when the room was warm. By mid-afternoon, his legs felt heavy and his energy dropped in a way that made it difficult to stay active. And perhaps most frustrating of all, he noticed a kind of mental slowdown, not severe, but enough to affect his focus and clarity. When Robert first came in, all of his standard tests looked normal. His blood pressure was within range. His heart function was stable. There were no obvious signs of disease or dysfunction that would explain what he was experiencing. And that's exactly what made his situation so frustrating. He was doing everything right, yet his body wasn't responding the way he expected. So we took a step back and looked at something most people overlook, not how much water he was drinking, but how his body was actually using it. And that's where we found the gap. Robert was hydrated in terms of volume, but not in terms of function. The water was going in, but it wasn't creating the kind of circulatory response his body needed. Once we made a few small adjustments, especially the ones I'm about to share with you, things began to shift. Not overnight, but steadily. And within a few weeks, he started noticing changes that he hadn't experienced in years. We'll come back to Robert shortly, because what happened next is important. But first, let's move into the 5 strategies, starting with number 5. Number 5 is temperature and timing. This is one of the simplest changes you can make, and yet it's one of the most overlooked. Most people drink water without ever thinking about its temperature or when they're consuming it. But both of these factors can influence how your body absorbs and responds to hydration. Very cold water, especially when consumed quickly, can slightly slow down absorption and may trigger a mild constriction response in your system. For someone already dealing with reduced circulation, that's not ideal. Switching to room temperature water allows your body to process it more efficiently and respond more naturally. It reduces unnecessary stress on your system and supports a smoother absorption process. But timing is just as important as temperature. Drinking water about 10 to 15 minutes before physical activity, even something as simple as walking, helps prepare your body and supports better circulation during that movement. It gives your system time to absorb the fluid and adjust, so your blood flow can respond more effectively when you begin moving. 3/20/26, 11:38 p.m. A NUP-F, it's a small adjustment and it doesn't require any special tools or ingredients. But when applied consistently, it creates a noticeable difference over time. And that's the key here. We're not looking for dramatic, complicated changes. We're looking for small, strategic adjustments that work with your body instead of against it. Now let's move to number 4, where things start to become more impactful. Number 4 is mineral support, and this is where the real shift begins to happen inside the body. Because hydration is not just about water. It's about how your body is able to use that water at a cellular and vascular level. And for that, your body depends heavily on key minerals like sodium, potassium, and magnesium. These minerals act like electrical signals. They help regulate how your blood vessels contract and relax, and they play a direct role in how efficiently your circulation system responds. When you drink plain water in large amounts without replacing these minerals, you can unintentionally dilute them. And when that happens, your blood vessels become less responsive. They don't relax as easily. Circulation becomes less efficient. And the symptoms many people experience, cold hands, fatigue, heaviness in the legs, can actually feel worse, not better. This is why some people increase their water intake and don't see improvement. It's not because water isn't important. It's because water alone isn't enough. A simple way to support this is by adding a small pinch of natural mineral salt to your water. Not excessive amounts, just enough to provide trace minerals that help your body maintain balance. Another option is adding a slice of lemon, which contributes potassium and supports overall hydration efficiency. These are small additions, but they can make a meaningful difference in how your body responds. you're not changing how much you drink. You're changing how your body uses what you drink. Now, before we move to number 3, I want to pause for a moment. If this is making sense to you, take a second to subscribe. Most people watch something like this, think it's helpful, and then move on with their day. But the people who actually apply even one of these changes consistently are the ones who start to feel a real difference. And there's more coming that builds on what we've already covered. Now let's move to number 3. Number 3 is infused hydration. This is where we begin to add compounds that can support your circulation more directly. Plain water hydrates, but it doesn't actively encourage your blood vessels to relax. Certain natural ingredients, however, can support that process. One example is hibiscus. When prepared properly and consumed at the right temperature, it can help support vascular relaxation and improve blood flow. It works gently, not aggressively, and that's exactly what we want. We're not trying to force the body to change. We're giving it support so it can function more efficiently on its own. What's important here is consistency and preparation. Drinking it at a moderate temperature, not too hot and not too cold, allows your body to absorb it more effectively. And using it regularly, even just a few times per week, can help support your system over time. Again, this is not about replacing anything. It's about enhancing what you're already doing in a simple and natural way. Now we move to number 2, where timing becomes even more critical. Number 2 is what I call morning activation, and this is one of the most important windows for your circulation throughout the entire day. The first hour after you wake up is when your body is transitioning from a resting state into full activity. During sleep, your fluid intake stops for several hours, which means your blood can become slightly thicker by the time you wake up. At the same time, your system is just beginning to reactivate, and your circulation is not yet fully optimized. What you do during this period has a disproportionate effect on how your body performs for the rest of the day. A simple practice, like drinking a glass of warm water shortly after waking, can begin restoring fluid balance gently without shocking your system. When you add something like fresh lemon, you provide additional support through natural compounds that can help your body respond more efficiently. Some people also choose to include a small amount of ginger, which has been traditionally used to support circulation and overall warmth in the body. The key here is not complexity. It's timing and consistency. This is not about creating a complicated routine. It's about taking advantage of a window where your body is most responsive. When you do this consistently, you're not just hydrating, you're setting the tone for how your circulation will function throughout the day. Now we come to number 1. This is the most important strategy on this list, and it's the one almost nobody does correctly. Because it's not just about what you drink. It's about how your body processes oxygen and regulates blood flow. Most people think hydration is purely about fluids, but circulation is deeply connected to how your body uses oxygen and how your nervous system regulates blood vessel behavior. And one of the simplest ways to influence that system is through your breathing. Most people breathe too quickly, too shallowly, and often through the mouth, especially when they are distracted, stressed, or tired. But this kind of breathing does not support efficient circulation. Slow, controlled breathing, especially through the nose, activates a natural pathway in your body that helps regulate blood flow more effectively. It supports relaxation of the vessels, improves oxygen exchange, and helps your system respond in a more balanced way. When you combine proper hydration with even a short period of slow nasal breathing, you're not just adding water to your system, you're activating it. And the difference that creates can be surprisingly noticeable. Now let me bring you back to Robert, because this is where everything comes together. 6 weeks after Robert began applying these changes, he came back for a follow-up. And what stood out wasn't just that something had improved, it was how many small things had changed at once. He told me his hands no longer felt cold all the time. The heaviness in his legs by the afternoon had reduced significantly. And perhaps most importantly, that sense of mental fog he had been struggling with had started to lift. He felt clearer, more present, more like himself again. What's important here is that he didn't make any extreme lifestyle changes. He didn't overhaul his diet. He didn't begin an intense exercise routine. And he didn't start any new medications. The only thing he changed was how he approached hydration and how his body responded to it, and his exact words stayed with me. I thought I needed more water, but what I really needed was my body to use it properly. That is the difference. Because when you understand how your body changes after 50, you begin to realize that it's not always about doing more. It's about doing things in a way that works with your body instead of against it. So let's bring everything together clearly. 5 simple strategies. First, adjust the temperature and timing of your water to support better absorption and circulation during activity. Second, support your body with the minerals it needs so your blood vessels can respond properly. Third, include simple infused hydration options that gently support vascular function. Fourth, use your morning window wisely to activate your system when it is most responsive. And fifth, combine hydration with slow, controlled breathing to support circulation at a deeper level. You don't need to apply all of these at once. Start with one, stay consistent, and give your body time to respond. Because small changes, done consistently, often create the most meaningful results. Now I'd like to hear from you. Which of these will you try first? Let me know in the comments. I read everyone, and it helps me understand what people are actually experiencing. And if you know someone who drinks water all day but still feels tired, cold, or mentally foggy, share this with them. Sometimes the answer isn't more effort. It's better understanding. If you found this helpful, consider subscribing for more simple, research-based insights designed specifically for your body after 50. Because there is a lot of information that doesn't get explained clearly during a short appointment, but it can make a real difference when you understand it. Take care of your circulation. It supports every system in your body, every second of every day. And when you give it the right signals, it responds.